So I think I'm gonna get back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Hey guys, I just concluded editing the episode you are currently watching, and I wanted to film a quick clip to go in front of it, simply noting that I am cognizant of the fact that it is a little bit late, but it's late for good reason. This was an incredibly special episode. It was the last week of locals I had before attending my first regionals, which I also included in this episode. And I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted it to be a true snapshot of time, because I feel like we have a lot of really big milestones in this one, and I want it to be just right. So I really hope you enjoy it. Thank you for being patient. And I suppose information that you should know, I did go back to Heroes simply because I didn't feel like I had enough time with Thunder Combo to really get it as well as I needed to. And as per usual, we open the episode by opening a couple of these. The first package was actually from Mario and contained the Lunalight Orcus deck that Jesse Cotton won with at YCS Fort Worth. I don't actually intend to play the deck, but I wanted to familiarize myself with its combos, and do some test hands so I could get a better understanding of how to play against these archetypes in the future, and when to use different interruptions. Now, could you just work with the deck on Dueling Book? The answer is a hard yes. I just find I learn significantly better when working with the actual tangible cards. Guys, we finally have it. Evil Hero, Malicious Bane. This card has been wildly elusive. We ordered this over 50 days ago. I actually ordered 2 copies, and I have to say, we finally have an answer to that of Nibiru, and it's actually really gorgeous. It's a little bit of a darker printing than what you normally see, and I love that. It actually kind of feels a little bit nostalgic despite being entirely new, and I feel like it's just time for celebration. I feel kind of bad for not getting balloons for the occasion. But you know what? If you guys want to celebrate with me, consider hitting the like button. Do it for Bane. Consider sharing the video with a friend. If any video actually deserves it, I think it'll be this one, because today we get to play with Bane. And, well, you'll see why it's a special episode in a little bit as well. So, while I liked our last hero build a lot, I'm actually going to make some pretty massive alterations. Bane, Dusted Gold, and Dark Calling are a must, and I also want to throw in 3 Allure of Darkness. Alex, well, Twiz, actually just uploaded a hero build which utilizes Allure to draw into cards like Mass Change, and it's a really neat idea because we always have additional Vions and increases in our hand. As for what I'm taking out, while I love Twin Twisters, they really aren't required for combos. I'm also going to remove a Monster Reborn and an E-Call as well. Admittedly, I'm a little iffy about removing the 3rd E-Call. However, Victor, the guy who actually ran the deck, he did only run 2, so I figured in the very least we could give it a try. Now, I've been doing some testing, and the Bane, it is definitely a great answer to that of Nibiru. I feel so much more safe making my big plays, and I also feel like the Allures added so much more consistency in getting to the Mass Change without kind of utilizing all of our resources to do so. So incredibly happy with both of those alterations. But with that said, with the main deck kind of the way I want it to be, let's talk about the side deck. I'm going to take a less antiquated route and remove the Raigeki from the side deck. I'm also going to take a lot of inspiration from the Thunder Combo side because I really enjoyed that one. With that said, here we have the current 15. Also, as an aside, I'm getting hungry, so let's make some food. Admittedly, it's not food, but it's healthy, it's quick, and now that we have some extra time, let's hop onto YouTube and just, as per usual, try to learn a thing or two. I am so happy with our main deck. I'm really happy with our side deck. Never been more confident with the side deck. And there's one thing, just one small thing I'd like to change about the extra deck. So let's talk about that. It has been suggested in the comments that we run a generic Link 2, so when we super poly, we aren't locked out of our extra deck heroes due to our inability to turn Starving Venom Dragon into something. So I'm going to throw in a Beat Cop and give that a go. With that said, as always, guys, thank you for the ideas, the tips in the comments. I've actually started taking pictures of them, that way I don't forget about the ideas, and I'm finding it incredibly useful. So, truly, genuinely, big thank you. Now, as per usual, I'm going to throw the deck list up on the screen for you to work with if you'd also like to try it online or in person. I'll also type out all of the cards, that way just in case you don't recognize something from the DN screenshot, you know, you also have that information, and hopefully we can kind of iterate on the deck together and just continue to make something special. So with that said, the tournament starts quite soon, so I'm going to get packed up, head out, and I will see you guys there. So we had about 12 players and the community was ready to get some practice in for regionals. It was round 1 and we were against, you guessed it, it's Skystrike. Wait, no, this isn't a Cimoooo video. We're playing against Carter. Last week, Carter and I played first, and it ended in a draw, so it was really cool that we got to play again so soon. I opened with Fusion Destiny and built a decent board with Dystopia and Plasma. Carter also built a decent board and swung his Endymion into Dystopia. Luckily, I did have Honest Neos, he walled off, and I finally got to summon Bane. Spoilers, Bane blew up the field, and we took the first game. Game 2, Carter went first, summoned a lot of cards, and an Amorphage Sloth, which locked me out of my extra deck. I tried to use Honest Neos to run it over, but he negated that, and that was essentially game for him. Game 3 started, I played first, played quickly, made Plasma, Darklaw, and searched Honest Neos. There was 8 minutes left on the clock, and I passed to Carter. He started by mind-controlling my Darklaw and made some monsters as well. 8 minutes later, however, time was called, and while he wasn't able to make Cowboy to burn me for game, he was able to continue to progress the game state, so I didn't get a turn to beat him. That's right, yet again, we ended in a draw, and he did admit to me that he didn't have an out to my board or what I was doing, so in the very least, I appreciate that.
I like the Came in the starter deck.
I am having playtesting nights.
The next match was against my favorite Blue Eyes player, however, this time, he was using Monarchs. I made a big board of Dread Decimator and Darklaw and passed. He Stormforthed the Darklaw, made Vanity's Ruler, and then realized he unfortunately didn't have an out to the Dread Decimator. The next turn, I used Trinity and Honest Neos to take the game. So, I ended up winning the match, however, again, it was his first time playing with the deck, and I'm sure in the future we'll have some pretty close games. And I'd also like to note, again, I love playing this guy. After the match, I did some trading, and I finally picked up the Elemental Hero Shining you guys recommended as a Super Poly target. I also traded for a Steam Healer, which could be a really fun instant fusion water hero card for the future. The next match was a really fun one, and I had a really broken hand. Wesley was running Blue Eyes Chaos Max, and while I wasn't getting practice against decks like Salad, Orchist, or Thunder like I expected, I was super happy to play this match. My first turn board was Darklaw, Dread, Decimator, and Adoration. In short, the Darklaw did end up winning me this game. He started off the next game and quickly brought out a Chaos Max Dragon. The old school player in me thought this card was absolutely insane. Just think back to like 2002 to 2006, and then there's a card that cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects, it can't be targeted, and it just like on first glance was like, wow, this is crazy. Luckily, he didn't have any back row, so I was able to make Trinity and just kind of run over the field as the hero deck does. My next match was against Ganon, who, from a learning perspective, is probably my favorite matchup. As noted earlier, he's a judge, incredibly knowledgeable, and now, a month later, I'd consider him a really good friend. He was playing Grand Maju, and I made him go first. He made Titanic, the Snake, and set a back row. I went for Trinity, swung over the Titanic, which then allowed him to Super Poly. The game continued, but a turn or two later, he did have me with the Gren. Game 2 began, and thanks to my two-sided Droll and Lockbirds, I was able to ensure that he didn't summon anything more than a Bigfoot and set a back row. I drew fairly well, started my combo, but yet again, he Super Polled me. Luckily, I was able to come back with the Bane and still make a Trinity. Those two essentially took the game. Game 3, Ganon, he made me go first and essentially just OTK'd me on the following turn. Really wasn't complicated at all. But at this point, I had 2 wins, a tie, and a loss, which generally isn't great, especially when you have 12 players. But luckily, everybody else was kind of having awkward matchups as well. So I was able to sneak into the top 4, which I was really happy about because it just essentially meant more practice before regionals. The first round of the top 4 was against Wesley Switzer, and I drew a beautiful brick. So I set 3 and simply passed. He was trying out a new Gravekeeper deck and drew significantly better than I did. He built a big board, swung, and essentially had the negates to win the game. I sided lots of back row removal and actually drew it. Wes went first and unfortunately didn't open with a monster. So on my turn, I used both of my Twin Twisters, cleared his board, and started going off with my Destiny Fusion. My board was growing, but then he hit me with the Nibiru and cleared my token on the following turn. Thankfully, I searched for a Stratos on the previous turn and was able to rebuild my board, which he once again flattened with a second Nibiru. This game, it was absolutely crazy. Never had I ever been hit with 2 Nibirus in the same game, and especially back-to-back turns. And I was getting a little worried because I was definitely running out of options. This time, luckily, however, the token was too big to swing over, and so I was able to take the second game. He started game 3 and opened with the craziest 2-card combo in the game. That's right, Necro Valley and Royal Tribute. Luckily, the heart of the cards was on my side, and I actually drew 0 monsters. It was absolutely insane. Ganon was sitting beside me. He couldn't believe what he was looking at. And I still can't believe I got that lucky. From there, I built a big board and took the game with a bunch of little swings over a couple of turns. I was now playing for first and second with Ganon, and as per usual, got a little nervous. I made a ridiculously poor board and simply passed. The game actually lasted more than 2 turns, but he was able to take it eventually with the Gizmek. Game 2, I made him go first. He made Titanic, set some cards, and passed. One of those set cards, however, happened to be There Can Only Be One. And well, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I had the Infinite Impermanence to negate that column on the following turn, and a Dynatag in my hand to negate an attack. So I built a small board, which I would assume would allow me to live, and I hoped. Now, somehow I actually succeeded, and while he was able to do a lot of damage, he wasn't able to kill me, so the plan could go into effect. So I negated his trap with my imperm and started my combo, which led to a trinity and a couple game-winning attacks. So at this point, I was so pumped. I always get a little nervous. I always get a little flustered when playing with Ganon because I know he is a significantly better player. And in an attempt to not make misplays, I feel like I make significantly more. But this was the first time I played him, and I actually felt pretty confident in my moves. And I felt like that entire set of plays was very pragmatic. So I do feel like I'm getting better as a whole in those kind of high-stress situations. To sum up the third game, it was incredibly close, but I did get a little bit back in my head and forgot to use Dark Calling, which essentially would have allowed me to wall off to the point where he wouldn't have killed me on the turn that he did, but that was on me. It was a misplay, but I felt like it was the only misplay I really made that game. So again, definitely feel like I'm improving. So, Ganon came in first, but this was by far the best I've done in a tournament and by far the closest I've been to actually winning. So I was really happy with just kind of the general progress. And with that said, something I did forget to mention, this was actually a box tournament, so we won quite a number of packs. The packs were from the new set, Mystic Fighters, and while there were some relatively expensive cards, all I wanted was a playset of Super Appropriate and Heavy Slump, essentially for the nostalgia. In the end, I did pull a Nurse Dragon Mage, which really has risen in price, and traded some of the low-level supers with Ganon for the other cards like that of the Appropriates and the Heavy Slumps. So, it was pretty fantastic, but I'm not going to end the episode here. Instead, I'm going to take you along for the journey with me going to my first regionals in 10 years. Tomorrow is regionals, and I have to say, I feel incredibly confident about our current deck list. I love how we did at our last locals, but I wanted to take a minute to film a quick clip noting that I am still very cognizant, very aware of the fact that I've only been playing this game for 5 to 6 weeks, and there is still so much I do not know. So many different cards, archetypes, combos. I wanted to remind all of the newer players out there who are joining the game with me, remember that while winning is great, while winning is fun, there's so much more to this game, and going into your first regionals, we're probably going to lose a lot of matches, and that's okay. Look at it as an opportunity to have fun, look at it as an opportunity to learn. That's what I'm doing, and I'm really excited. So with that said, I do have one more package to show you before we jump into that regionals, so let's open this bad boy and talk Yu-Gi-Oh! As we approach regionals and talk about all of these new competitive cards, I thought it was important to take a step back and remember that this game really isn't just about winning. The nostalgia and the fun factors, they are absolutely huge, and these cards, they brought me right back to 2002. I still remember going from store to store hoping to find the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards I saw on the television show, and on like the 5th try, we finally found the Kaiba starter deck. I ran home, showed my friend Neil, and we immediately started playing that Yu-Gi versus Kaiba original series. Anyways, it's an absolutely crazy day. I have roughly 10,000 things to do, but I did want to note that I've been getting a lot of suggestions about blinding second instead of playing heroes as a going first deck, as I have been doing over the last month and a half. So I figured tonight during testing, we definitely give that a try, have some fun with the idea, especially considering a lot of the hero decks that have been topping regionals lately have been playing a going second version. So I figure, you know what? We'll give it a try. We'll try to learn a thing or two. So I'm really excited. I'm heading off to Mario's pretty soon. We're going to do some testing. And yeah, it's happening. Mario and I quickly unpacked our things, some inventory, and started testing. Other players started showing up, and before you knew it, there were 13 to 14 of us, and we didn't even have a scheduled tournament. Everyone was just there to hang out, do some testing, and of course, have some
Everything
pizza.
is mandatory.
Wait, did I remember to
Shop at American Eagle Outfitters located in Quinny Mall, Belleville.
I also did some testing against Thunder Dragons and Guru Control, which was a really neat deck I wasn't previously introduced to. I also saw my old friend Roy, who I actually met for the first time at our old card shop, Action Pack Comics, again, probably 15, 20 years ago. I remember thinking he just had the best trades, so for tradition's sake, we broke out the binders and we traded.
Only got 2 ultis,
So, after a great time talking strats, playtesting, trading, we decided to call it a night fairly early because we have to be up at 5 in the morning because regionals, it's like a 2-hour drive away if we get good Canadian weather, and if not, things get a little more tricky. So we did decide to call it a night, but I would like to note that I am going to go into this regional as a blinding second, which isn't how I've been playing the deck in the past, but all of the people who seem to be getting quite a bit of success with it are playing that way, so we're going to give it a try, and in the very least, we're going to learn something. So, Mario collected me in the dead of night, and we started picking up the gang, which included Blake, Quinn, and Ganon. Of course, a Tim Hortons pit stop was the first thing on our to-do list. The next was to deal with this train.
This is how you make lots of money.
Okay, nope. You're going around. That's it. Oh, it's
like
done.
8 cars long.
Turning around.
So we were back on the road and we got to watch the sun come up on the highway. We also got to listen to Mario's driving playlist, which of course included Mario Kart theme music. Once we got to the event, trading began. I immediately ran into a really nice member of the community and we got to hang out for a couple of minutes. Then the doors opened, I signed up for my new Konami ID, I handed in my deck list, and the tournament began. So my first match of the tournament, it was against Madolches, and it was an archetype I previously hadn't even heard of. I was completely unaware of what was occurring, but my opponent was incredibly kind. He explained each and every card as he played it, and I should note, I just could not keep up with his general advantage. At one point, he had 12 cards in his hand, and he very easily took the first match. Now, I know it's going to sound crazy, but quite honestly, some of the greatest highlights of my day happened in between my matches. It really felt like every time I turned around, I got to meet a new, incredibly positive member of the community, and I got to hear so many stories about how you guys got into the game, how you guys got back into the game. I was honored with the opportunity to sign just so many cards, and I couldn't believe how a room full of strangers just so quickly turned into a room full of family. I also met this incredibly, just wildly generous fellow named Enosian who presented me with this beautiful elemental hero mat his brother made. And I cannot believe the amount of talent, the amount of just incredible card players that existed within the community, and it was such a wonderful experience. At this point, I did recognize something needed to change, so I did decide to start going first, and spoilers, it made a massive difference. While I was now at the lower tables, I did win the following 3 matches. I feel like I got to meet so many positive, fun, incredible people. You guys made getting back into this game worth it, and I can't thank you enough for being a part of this journey, whether we're talking in real life for 10 minutes, whether we're playing some fun games, or whether we're just chatting here in the comments. Thank you for making this all just so real. So, before I continue rambling, we're going to jump back into the day and let's talk about the final round of the first regionals. It was round 9 and I was against another great guy playing Paleo Frogs. We had some incredibly grindy games, it went back and forth, but in the end, I did get fairly lucky and I was able to take that final match of the day. Overall, I was really cheerful with my results. I didn't expect to do this well after being back for only a month, and also just not recognizing the majority of the cards I was playing against. I also won all of the matches where I did decide to go first, and I took notes with all of my misplays so I could review those in the future and just continue to do a little bit better. At the tournament, I also got to meet Sam from Team Samurai X, and we had the most positive chat. I was in absolute disbelief by the fact that he actually knew who I was, and I have to say, such a friendly, welcoming guy. I also saw Jesse Cotton at the top tables, but I didn't introduce myself because, to be honest, I was a little starstruck. I feel like this guy has just been such a big inspiration for me getting back into the game, especially in a more competitive sense, and I just find his thoughts on card choice incredibly interesting. Anyways, guys, I know this was a long one, but I really just wanted to share as much as I possibly could and just let you in on the journey, have you be a real part of this. And again, I'd love to hear about your journeys, your first experience at your locals, your first regionals. I love hearing that sort of thing, and I really look forward to reading it. So I will see you next week with a brand new episode of Returning to Yu-Gi-Oh! Where we prepare for the January 18th regionals taking place at the same spot in Scarborough. So I'll see you guys soon. And again, I can't wait to read the comments. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. I love it. I love all of it. Thank you. I'm emotional. Wow. What a good one though. Man.